Hey Believers, this is SuperZomgbBBQ. Today it is one day removed from the greatest wrestling match ever. Which it wasn't, but then again, it was also an amazing match. But I'm not going to tell you any spoilers. I just want to know if you watched Backlash. Comments down below, what did you think of it? Now that's over and done with, we had the greatest pack opening ever, but it didn't have certain superstars in it. And I'm about to tell you which superstars have been removed and have now become extinct. Yes, you heard me right, extinct. It's a term I don't use much when it comes to SuperCard, but we've got a bunch of superstars who have gone and one or two very, very surprising ones. Let's go. Sorry to disappoint any of you. I personally am a little bit annoyed. None of those superstars is King JB. He's a little bit of a snob. Hopefully he doesn't come back. But why have I got the catalogue up? Because of those superstars who have been removed. We're going to start off and say, if you enjoy what you see and you're feeling generous, drop a like on the video. If you want to see more of this kind of thing, hit the big red subscribe button, turn notifications on. It takes 2 seconds of your time. Boom, that was actually 3 seconds. That's now 5-6 seconds. Let's get into it. Tons of different superstars got laid off by WWE. Now, in case you don't know, there was a in fact, a couple of big days back in April when all of the current global situation went down, and there's been other things that have happened since that have caused WWE and actually various different wrestling groups, organizations, they effectively have to shut down parts of their business. Some had to stop completely, for example, like Evolve, NJPW. If you don't know those, go check them out on Google. But AEW and WWE were able to keep their, even if they were taped, wrestling shows on air. The problem was without fans, which at the moment they're still without fans in this really weird period of our existence. It's so odd watching wrestling matches like last night's Backlash and the greatest wrestling match ever between Randy Orton and Edge. That, yeah. It's super, super weird, especially when they try and put crowd noises in. It's like, yikes. The day that specifically comes to mind is the one called Black Wednesday. This date was when about half of WWE's workforce, a third of it, got laid off. Released different wrestlers. I'll give you a couple of names, the likes of Zack Ryder, Kurt Hawkins, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, off screen as well, likes of Kurt Angle, Lance Storm, amongst many others. Drake Maverick, which now and then become a storyline, and apparently it was a genuine release. EC3, basically a bunch of people you either haven't seen on air, or in the case of Drew Gulak, was on air and then just suddenly just walked out. Now, as you can expect, a couple of those haven't shown up in Elemental Tier. Now I've got that explanation out of the way. Those wrestlers, most of those wrestlers and people, including the likes of the Revival, have been removed from the game. In fact, I have a full list here. First of all, we have Eric Rowan, not a surprise. Leo Rush, not a surprise. Matt Hardy's gone to AEW. Deonna Purrazzo's gone to Impact. EC3, waiting for his no-compete clause, which is 90 days from WWE. Rusev, Dash Wilder, Scott Dawson, Sarah Logan, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, and No Way Jose. All have disappeared, either through fusions, mainly fusions, or because they've just not been being pulled from the game at all. On top of that, Kurt Angle and Kurt Angle's manager card, which if you now go, and you may have noticed this, in supports, there is now a Lana and not a Kurt Angle. In fact, if we just roll down here, Kurt Angle goes all the way up to WrestleMania 36 tier and then disappears. His card is now extinct. What does that mean? Any of those cards I've just mentioned will now no longer be able to be pulled from the board or gained from fusions. So that includes Kurt Angle's normal cards, let alone his GM cards. Which means if you are under Elemental and want a power and charisma manager, yeah, sorry, bad luck. Kurt Angle's gone, and he's not been replaced by anyone in the game. All those names come to mind, but there's a couple of others that haven't been removed, which is very surprising. But on top of that, there's a couple that haven't been removed that probably should have been by now. And this is Luke Harper. If you guys don't know, he's now moved to AEW with the name Brody Lee. You've also got Rhino, Curtis Axel, who's gone, Alicia Fox, who's basically now a legend as such, Sin Cara as well, again disappeared, although Sin Cara probably because I think WWE will want to reintroduce him at some point. They actually own all the rights to Sin Cara. The people who portrayed him, even the original Sin Cara, don't own the rights to that character, so they could bring him back at any time. Now, first of all, I want to shout out Maniac, who actually came up with this list, well, most of this list, through YouTube comment section on my Elemental freebie video. Huge thanks to him. But the big name, which is a massive question mark, is Brock Lesnar. Yes, Brock Lesnar's Titan card, which is a fusion, has disappeared. Doesn't exist anymore. Not only that, but no one's been able to pull a Brock Lesnar since. This could be some kind of snafu. It could be the same with what happened to Edge. And Brock Lesnar, well, one of the guys who's got the most cards in the game. If you do not have certain Brock Lesnar cards, then unfortunately, yep, you've lost out. All the Brock Lesnar cards that are currently in-game at this time being are the last ones you've seen for some time, or until he returns to WWE. Before Elemental Tier was the last time you could get your hands on Brock Lesnar. Could this change for anyone else? We don't know at this time. So I'd like to know your theories on this. This is a very big deal that suddenly Brock Lesnar has disappeared. It does raise questions as to whether we will see him in WWE 2K Battlegrounds, whether he'll be in Season 7 of SuperCard, whether he's going to be removed entirely. It's a big deal that this has happened, and Cat Daddy or SuperCard wouldn't have just done this. They would have likely been told to. Extinct doesn't mean you can't have those cards or use those cards anymore. You can use those cards. In fact, people were using it all over the weekend with Road to Glory. But what it does mean is you will not be able to pull another, for example, Brock Lesnar off the board of any tier. The only way you're going to get your hands on him is if you somehow have access to the 2K 18, I think, 18 QR codes. And even then, they may have been discontinued or disallowed now that he's seemingly left the company. So if you already have a Brock Lesnar card, hold on to it, which is what I'm going to be doing to all my Money in the Bank Brock Lesnar cards, because if you get rid of him, you will not be able to get him back, at least for now. Will he come back? Yes, likelihood is he will come back. I doubt they're going to let him go to AEW. The other thing that's pointing towards this, Paul Heyman is now going back to doing on-screen stuff and is not behind the scenes at Raw anymore. So he's no longer in charge of all the storylines, creative stuff. If you guys know a bit more about the backstage stuff, you'll know what I'm talking about there. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments section down below, whether you believe this is the end of the exclusions. Do you think Brock Lesnar's going to be back anytime soon, or do you think he's just gone for now? He's said bye-bye, he's passed the title on to Drew McIntyre, and now he's moving on else to, maybe he's going to go to UFC again. I mean, I only said like 9 months ago that apparently he was done with UFC and he was retired. If Conor McGregor's anything to go by, he can retire as many times as he wants and just return the next month. I also wanted to address something else in this video because a few people have mentioned that I've not spoken about this. So I'm just going to briefly mention it. The pro stats issue with the elemental cards. For anyone who hasn't seen yesterday's video where we did 100 packs, there was a pro in it. Not my own. My Ricochet is still waiting to be pro'd. But we did get a Samoa Joe Pro or Samoa Pro from the packs we were doing for a friend's account. The problem was when it was fully leveled up, the stats were really low compared to how most tiers work. Now, we don't actually have an answer from SuperCard yet about this. I have contacted them myself, waiting for a response, but I think this is something that's not going to change, and I'll tell you the reason why. The way the stats are set out at the moment are to be able to beat Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 cards in WrestleMania 36 tier, but they are under the event cards and heroic event cards, which makes fortifying useless. Fortifying is now completely useless. The likelihood of you getting any kind of boost from that anything that's going to come close to the event cards is very, very unlikely. So what this does, if this is the new normal as such for SuperCard, is it means that those cards now you get from a base tier are going to be deck fillers. They're not really going to be that useful. Whereas the event cards and the special cards, the stuff you get in fusions and like the NWO cards and the spring cards and all those kind of sometimes good stuff, sometimes bad stuff, that's going to become the most important thing. I'm not necessarily too happy with that, and I would question why that change was made. But if they do say, hey, you know what, we actually messed up, it's a problem on our side, and they change it and bring it back to normal or to what we would expect it to look like, then I'll happily eat my words. But for those who are hoping, the way it's coming across, unfortunately, is that Cat Daddy are not going to be changing their mind. This seems to be the new normal. But I do think, and I will be very critical here, that Cat Daddy owe their audience an explanation for this, because this has been the norm since season 1, and they've just suddenly changed it. That's not cool. And personally, I think this is something that should have been announced. But then again, Cat Daddy have a history of doing this kind of thing where they just change something and eventually they kind of either are forced to say something because the greater community of the game gets really frustrated, or alternatively, they just don't say anything and it becomes normal. But if this is the way the stats are going to work now for new tiers, I personally feel that it should have been explained and that there needs to be something done, because the way it comes across is a bit underhanded and shady. But if I get a response, I'll let you guys know what it is. We are waiting the Champions cards to drop, which, as you've seen here, I've got myself Rey Mysterio. I wonder how the Champions cards are going to bear up against Rey Mysterio. They're going to be dropping in the next couple of days. I wonder what Rey Mysterio's Pro is going to look like. Let me know your thoughts about Backlash in the comment section down below. I will see you guys very soon. Make sure to like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of thing, and turn your notifications on. I will see you in the next one.